Hi, this is Michael Kester with Impact DataSource, and this video is a short how-to video tutorial about our EB-5 Targeted Employment Area Sneak Peek Map for 2017, which we just recently released. So the time as of this video, it is mid-February, and this is about the time of year where a lot of our clients, they come to us and they ask us, we have this EB-5 project, and it looks good now, qualifies as a TEA right now, but we know that the data is soon going to be changing over here in the next few months. How's that project going to look when that new data is finalized? And even though it's going to be a few months until the data is finalized in mid-April, we do have enough data available to us now to get really, really close to what those final numbers will be. So that's what the sneak peek map represents. Basically getting pretty close within a pretty good low margin of error to what the census tract high unemployment rates are going to be. So that's why this map could be useful for you when you're analyzing your project. Sometimes it's difficult with TEAs to analyze them because the TEA really only comes into play at the time that the immigrant investor's petition is filed or the time they make the investment. But typically the gap between when you're starting to look at an EB-5 project, review it to see if it's a viable EB-5 project for TEA and jobs and things of that nature, can be a pretty big time gap between that initial review and when you might actually get to your investors for the project. So it's always important to kind of be mindful of how the data might be changing looking ahead as well. So depending on where you're at on the EB-5 timeline, this map can be very, very useful for you. So what does the map represent and what does it not? So again, the data it's close to final data for calendar year 2016. Most states between April and June will be switching over from calendar year 2015 data to calendar year 2016 data. And so I say close to final because we have the majority of the data available to us to get very, very close to what the data will be when it's finalized in a few months. Really the only missing piece we're missing is from the BLS side for the calendar 2016 data. The month of December data is still preliminary, but the rest of the other 11 months are finalized, and also the American Community Survey data is also finalized. And most states use both those pieces of data to calculate their census tract high unemployment rates. So again, this map should be very, very close to what the final data will be, but not quite final. There could be some minor fluctuations. What is final is the 2016 national unemployment rate was 4.9%. So we have to compare to 150% of that amount, which is 7.4%. So that is for states that are going off the calendar year basis, which is almost all of them. The final rate that we'll be looking at to compare to is 7.4%. So again, this map is mainly for analyzing high unemployment census tracts, while we do have the rural information in there, and you can it'll tell you if your location is rural or not. The rural data hasn't changed, so if your project was rural, should still be rural within the next few months and also in the foreseeable future as well. The rural data shouldn't be changing, at least under the current definitions. One thing that's important to note is what the map does not represent. This map is not a guess of how any new TEA rules or proposed legislation is going to come to fruition. There's been a lot of proposals and a lot of noise out there about how TEA rules might change, so it's kind of impossible to guess on what any potential rule changes will be. So for now, the states are still in charge of the TEA certifications. They will be for the foreseeable future, but also while this map is certainly relevant under the current regulations, most of the proposed bill proposals and also the proposed rules by DHS still utilize census tracts in some shape or form, and they use high unemployment data at the census tract level in some shape or form. And while many of them, very drastically limited what you could do as far as census tract combination, they still did have census tracts as part of the proposed rules. So the map is still relevant in that sense, as well as far as possible rule changes as well. But the map is not factoring in any other of the possible proposed rule changes, such as limiting the census tracts or adding in other types of data such as poverty and income. It's just impossible to guess what that might be. So let's take a look at the map. So if you've used our map before, it should look familiar to you. It's got the same layout. And basically it's the exact same, except the data for this map is our best preliminary projection for what the calendar year 2016 will be. 2016 data will be. So you can still search an address up here, point and click around on different census tracts to pull up the data. The legend over here has a lot of good detail behind the map. So just as a quick example, so let's say we had a project that fell into this orange census tract here. Now the orange census tracts, as always, represent the high unemployment census tracts, and the clear ones do not. So if I click on this tract here, it'll bring up the data for it, and it'll show that it's our estimated calendar year 2016 rate for this tract is 8%. We compare that to the new TEA threshold of 7.4%, and looks like the census tract qualifies on its own. Now again, the data is not quite finalized, but when California does release its data, which California releases its data typically on May 1st, we would expect this to be very, very close to what they release on May 1st, again, because most of the data is out there, and these calculations are based off that available data. And similarly, the overall tract unemployment rate here is 8%. Comparing that to 7.4%, it's a decent bit above, so we wouldn't anticipate any fluctuations in that final December month of data to take us below 7.4%. So we'd feel pretty comfortable that this census tract would remain a high unemployment TEA when that final data is released. Now, of course, navigating the TEA waters can be very, very tricky. States have different rules on how you can aggregate census tracts. They often use different data. Some states will permit you to use block groups. Some won't. So again, just use this map as a guide to kind of assist you in evaluating your project locations on how they might look here in a few months when the data is finalized. But let us know if you have a tricky location or you think something doesn't work. You'd like us to take another review at it, because again, states do different things and have different policies. And we're well versed with working with all the states, so you can always click on up here and contact us, and we can do a free TEA review of your project, get another pair of eyes at it, have one of our economists take a look at it, and provide you a good detailed response on our thoughts on the project. Similarly, we also provide a free preliminary jobs estimates as well to help you with your upfront project planning. So again, depending on where you and your project might be at along the EB-5 timeline, it may be important for you to look ahead to how the census tract data might be looking here in a few months when the states change over from calendar year 2015 to calendar year 2016. And our map can help you out with evaluating those locations. Finally, here's just a list of all of our comprehensive EB-5 economist services, and also our online resources as well. Do not hesitate to give us a call or email or click on one of our web links. We'd be happy to assist you with any targeted employment area or job creation questions, or any other questions you might have about the EB-5 program.